Bob, I'm sure you've got fascinating insight on the fallout from the seditious conspiracy trial and conviction of Stewart Rhodes and a few others. What impact does that have on Merrick Garland's thinking, on the DOJ, possibly on Donald Trump?
Yeah, it gives them a strong basis. I think we are now at the point that the Justice Department, the new special counsel, is going to have to indict Trump or explain why they are not indicting him. Now, that's certainly possible that they won't. Prosecutors have discretion, but the case of the violation, I'm sorry, it's technical, 18 U.S.C. 371, conspiring, working to subvert a lawful function of government, is right there in plain sight.
Well, Attorney General Merrick Garland says the Justice Department will continue its work to hold accountable those responsible for trying to overturn the 2020 election. The AG made the comments at a news conference yesterday while praising the verdict in the Oath Keepers' seditious conspiracy trial. On Tuesday, a federal jury found the group's founder, Stewart Rhodes, and his deputy, Kelly Meggs, guilty of seditious conspiracy. 3 other members were convicted of various felonies in connection with the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
These convictions were the result of tireless work by Justice Department agents, attorneys, analysts, and support staff, beginning in January 2021 with a methodical collection of evidence and continuing through the presentation of that evidence during the 7-week trial that began in October of 2022. Their skill and dedication are in the very best tradition of the Justice Department, and we are all extremely grateful to them.
During the trial, prosecutors highlighted the defendants' ties to key allies of former President Donald Trump. But Garland didn't say if he expected prosecutors to eventually file charges against anyone else who did not physically participate in the insurrection. Willie?
As for the select committee investigating the January 6th attack, Chairman Benny Thompson says the panel now is getting close to wrapping up its final report and will publicly release transcripts and other materials from its investigation. Congressman Thompson said yesterday he expects the documents will be made public before Christmas, along with the committee's long-awaited final report summarizing and detailing its investigation. Chairman Thompson also confirmed yesterday the committee has now completed all of its interviews. USA Today reports the committee will meet in private tomorrow to discuss potentially urging the Justice Department to pursue criminal charges against former President Donald Trump and others, and potential civil complaints against lawyers who allegedly behaved unethically. That is according to lawmakers on that committee. So, Bob Woodward, we'll get a final report. We've heard a lot of the testimony. We'll see the full transcripts. What's interesting there, though, is that Chairman Thompson says they will be talking to Justice about some kind of a referral potentially. What are those conversations like behind the scenes?
Well, in a way, they're interesting fodder for us to discuss, but I really think if you get, Garland is there talking about the dedication and efforts that people have made in doing this investigation. Dedication and effort is wonderful. What is most wonderful is evidence.
Yeah.
And they have compelling evidence that if you go back, it's most interesting, 100 years to Supreme Court decisions on this 371 violation, and it makes it very clear, decisions written by Chief Justice Taft, a former president, only person to become Chief Justice, saying that in this, to violate this, you have to practice deceit and dishonesty. Now, we know, again, from evidence that that is right out of Donald Trump's playbook.
Yeah.
He knew.
Deceit, dishonesty, and the law and the Constitution are clear
Right.
that they will meet and decide who's president.
Right. And I mean, you don't need a congressional referral for the Justice Department to move ahead. And Attorney General Garland used a word that I think is important here. He used the word methodical. That pretty much sums him up. It's, one step and then the next step and then the next step. They've been gathering the evidence. And
It was interesting, though, that he wanted to get out in public and take a victory lap.
Exactly.
Right?
That was,
He's
which
not
is
been very public so
new
far.
for him.
And I think
Right.
people are trying to get him to be more out there so they can defend themselves against the attack.
But the report could be valuable to the Justice Department whenever it comes out. I'm so interested in this concept that they're only looking at people who are actively participating, because when it comes to Donald Trump, if you look at what the January 6th committee revealed, it appears he wanted to be there and might have been held back physically. And so where does that stand and everything,
Well, what's interesting, the trial now has established as a matter of law and fact that there was a conspiracy, a seditious conspiracy against the United States. This is the first time, though, at least in more than a century, in which you could say a president had some relationship to such a conspiracy. The question is now, of course, can you prove it, as Bob said, with evidence? The interesting thing about Merrick Garland's decision to appoint a special counsel is that it's possible he has made a threshold decision, that he is willing to file charges against a former president who is now running for president, because otherwise you wouldn't bother to turn it over to a special counsel, and that the special counsel will now decide, is the evidence sufficient to meet the letter of the law? But that threshold question, do you want to put the country through a possible prosecution? Otherwise, Merrick Garland wouldn't have bothered to appoint a special counsel.
Yes, but I think he had no choice.
Yeah.
I think if you look at, Biden's running, Trump's running, what's going on here? We have to mention the Hunter Biden case, which is something that Garland is going to have to eventually face up to. So I think it's even maybe not premature to discuss. Suppose he doesn't indict. What's the explanation to the public? Where there is all this language of no person is above the law.
Right.
Well,
everyone's waiting.
Exactly.
That's exactly
I can just
where
hear you saying, and there are always other circumstances.
Right.
I hate to go back 50 years, but in the Nixon case, he was never prosecuted.
Right.
And why was he not prosecuted? He was pardoned.
I've some Democrats, Bob, have said to me, oh, God, this is going to be our Mueller situation all over again, where the whole of the Democratic community in Washington was focusing on Mueller and thinking he's going to be our savior. He's going to be the one that gets us out of it. I wonder slightly whether that's why Garland took a victory lap yesterday to show that he is publicly on this. But do you think after what you heard yesterday and the question of, well, no one is above the law, therefore Garland has to respect that, Democrats are going to be more satisfied with Garland in the next 2 years than perhaps they have been in the first 2 years of Biden's presidency?
I don't know how you satisfy Democrats in this without some sort of preemptive justice, and that isn't going to happen.
No.
But think about what are the multiple obligations. Months ago, Mika, we talked on this show about the battle royale going on in the Justice Department. This is 4.5 months ago, because they are internally, rightly debating what do you do with the Trump evidence. And the point is now here, and these convictions on seditious conspiracy. I mean, that's
ramping it up to a different level.
It is, and whether you would apply that statute or some other statute to the president, I'm sure is being debated. But where does this go? And not only what's the political impact of this? What are Democrats going to do if they're unhappy? What is the It's been reported, I think, reliably by your newspaper, Peter, that President Biden was very anxious to have Trump be held accountable.